Greetings everyone, my name is Zephyr, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Starward Rogue. Lo and behold, Arcen Games has released their first expansion for Starward Rogue titled AuGMENTED. It includes the following new features: a new type of floors called gold floors with unique challenges and rewards, as well as tougher enemy configurations, 4 new musical tracks, 3 new mechs, 90 plus new items, 30 plus new enemies, 125 plus new rooms, 8 new room obstacles, 10 plus challenge rooms, as well as 6 new mini-bosses and 9 new bosses. In fact, because of it, the overall completion for my run has decreased from 70% to 45%, so there's a significant amount of new content added. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Arcen Games not only for providing a key for the base game, but also for the expansion. If I had neither, I'd never be able to play this rather fun top-down roguelike shooter. It's not the best top-down roguelite shooter, but it's a fun one nonetheless. So let's begin. Also, of note, I completed 10 successful runs so far, so Rodri's intro dialogue is a bit different. Rodney's, specifically. Apparently, by destroying all those wardens and terminus encounters, we may leave this area, and he states not to go down all the way 7 floors, so I guess what this implies is that we've unlocked a much tougher final boss encounter, and perhaps this entire ship next to the sun was in fact imprisoning Rodney because Rodney was a cosmic horror or something. At the very least, judging by the dialogue, because we destroyed all 10 wardens that were blocking us from freeing Rodney, and apparently Rodney tricked us. At least that's what I suspect from my genre savvy from other games, although I may have the wrong genre savvy for this regard, but we'll have to see once I get to the end. If I can get to the end, that is. Okay, here are the 3 new mech types. Zephyr, basically the speedrunner mech, because you have a boost to several stats, but it diminishes every minute, lasting 5 minutes in total, so it promotes speedrunning play. The Warhog, which is a armor-plated war machine, armed with the Warhog shotgun, a deployable battle sentry, as well as the Cataclysm mega missile launcher. It is big and slow, but all of the damage taken is reduced by 1. And we also have the melee-focused Paladin mech, which has the Phantom Blade, which can actually pierce through walls, as well as a power shield on its side so it can deflect any projectile, as well as shield bash enemies in order to temporarily stun them. And yes, you can shield bash mini-bosses and bosses. As well as the starting effectively mini-putty. Well, it's called a LDH unit, but it's effectively a mini-putty. And you also have the Holy Missile Launcher, which fires 6 missile launchers which are guided at enemies. However, you lose 10% of your credits upon entering a new floor. Plus, because this is a melee-focused mech, you have to be really close to enemies in order to deal maximum damage. When you are in melee distance, your sword swings deal a truckload of damage, but this causes issues with certain room configurations, and in particular a lot of boss fights which forces you to be in medium to longer distance. Because there are a whole slew of new enemies, mini-bosses, bosses, and room obstacles added in this expansion, I strongly suggest against playing this mech for your first time. Instead, pick a mech with a longer range of starting weaponry. Like for example the White Glass or any of the other mechs above, not even the Warhog or something else. But because I want to showcase this run or showcase one of the new mechs, I'll be starting out with the Warhog mech. It has a decent amount of attack range, missiles, and energy, but it definitely has a really high amount of health, or at least a high amount of starting health. It isn't the highest amount of starting health though. The White Glass I believe starts out with 12, this one starts out with 10. Also of note is the fact that the health, or rather doesn't start with any shields. Thankfully, all damage taken is reduced by 1, so that's a plus. We don't need to get another module and build it in. So let's begin this and hope that we survive long enough. So let's take a short look here. Let's see, we start out with the Warhog shotgun, one of my favorite shotguns in the game. Deals a truckload of damage up close. It has a decent amount of damage on range, and it pushes back weaker foes, as well as certain mini-bosses as well. We can deploy battle sentries, as well as have a Cataclysm launcher, although this is a mixed blessing, because this fires all missiles at once in one blast, so the damage scales up a lot more as you have more and more missiles and as you upgrade your missile capacity. I mean, it's possible to destroy all blocks on screen at once, even off screen. Unfortunately, it causes problems when I want to collect certain health shard upgrades because I only want to expend one. Hopefully the Warhog has a certain perk that allows us to destroy blocks using our primary or secondary weapon. So this is a combination of a semi-heavily armored / engineer mech, because the battle sentry deployer does scale up as we get more and more energy capacity, though we need to get 150 energy in order to deploy a third one, and they do take damage and can be destroyed. Also, as you may have noticed, some of these have AU, meaning gold, so I get the feeling that these are really special items, and you can only unlock them or get them normally either as a starter utility, or by getting them as a random drop in one of the gold floors that randomly spawn in somewhere. I get the feeling that the gold items are either better than their non-gold counterparts, or they have more unique characteristics or are more expensive, but we'll have to see this. Well, enough talking about this entire expansion, let's begin, and let's hope we survive long enough. And yes, this mech's lower speed is definitely noticeable. I'll take the battle sentry deploy because that'll be a lot more useful. Especially because as long as you keep them down and they don't get destroyed, they'll still have their effect going. Unlike energy weapons, which drain over time and you stop using them, as long as the battle sentries don't get destroyed, they'll keep firing at enemies. What I need to be really careful about this run is avoiding taking damage until I unlock my first missile upgrade, or rather shield upgrade. As you can see, I started with no shields, so any point of damage is permanent, which will cause more problems as I unlock more and more floors, of course. I'm taking a risk here mainly because I deal a lot of damage per hit, so it doesn't matter as much. Basically, my Warhog shotgun deals so much damage that I can easily just destroy the boss. What happened there, actually? And apparently the Blood Reaper can be lured in by these turrets as well, so that's awesome. This would be more useful if I was playing as the Paladin, but I'll keep the Warhog shotgun because it has a surprisingly high amount of range. I should also be on the lookout for any new enemy types. Walked right into that one. Expect to take a lot of damage throughout this run, especially with, like here for example. Another problem with this mech is the fact that it has a larger profile, so it's more easy to get hit by these projectiles. And honestly, I wish this mech actually started out with a shield, or at least 2 to 5 extra health on normal mode, otherwise it feels kind of imbalanced for me at the very least. But we'll have to see. I love the Warhog shotgun, sure, but I would like this mech to have a smaller profile and or more health, and or start out with an actual shield, but we'll see. Let's just hope that this run goes better than what I hope it is. Energy upgrades are going to be super useful, but I don't know how well my battle sentries are going to scale over time. Close quarters combat here is really risky. And somehow I ended up taking damage there from whatever. That's the only problem with the Warhog. Having no shields means that you can take a lot of stray hits. And these types of rooms are really not playing to the strengths of the shotgun. Nor the battle sentries. I need better line of sight. This was a demonstration of the upgraded Apocalypse Cannon or Cataclysm Cannon. You saw how much of its damage splash was. It gets even more crazy as we get more missiles. Well, I guess we finished this room. No keycards yet. Well, that's a new enemy type. Well, never mind, that's this wall beam. I really need more health, so I'll be blowing that up once I complete this room. At the very least, the sentries do deal a nice amount of supporting fire, which is really useful in these types of rooms. That was really close. I was cutting it with that precise hitbox. There we go, back up to full. First level up. I'll take a risk here and do a savings interest. I get the feeling I won't be unlocking a lot of health shard upgrades, so I think this is the better option. For now, at least. Of course, I really want to conserve my health until I get a shield. That seems like a much better option. Well, nowhere else to go other than the boss fight, so let's fight it. Sunder, I remember fighting you. It'll be a while before we fight any of the new bosses, though. So let's actually call for some assistance, and take some damage anyway. At the very least, all these projectiles only deal 1 point of damage per hit, so it's not even too bad. Plus, I could potentially use my sentries as shields. Phew, I almost took another point of damage there. Lucky. That's gonna be really useful. Now I actually walk at a nice rate. More damage seems nice. Let's see here. I better restore my health. I don't want to risk going to the next floor without max health. Another nice feature about this mech is that we can run over these obstacles really easily. Unfortunately, it's the soft obstacles. So it's not the best as I would like it to be. So let's fully restock on everything and complete this room. Or should I say complete this floor. I won't be able to access that, so let's just end it. This first floor was tumultuous. I would say it's somewhat good, but we'll have to see further if I'll be able to survive or whatnot. I doubt I'll be able to do it, but let's try. This floor also looks a bit new, and I don't remember these sentry turrets. Another major item storage. I'll take the FDL module because that's a lot more useful. Especially because it really buffs my damage. Okay, I think this is the first set of gold floors because this definitely looks a bit different. And there are a lot of new enemy types as well, so I gotta be a bit careful. Yes, that's definitely a new enemy type, the Ice Rocketeer. What happened there, actually? What happens when you're standing on these things? I keep getting hit by random things. Well, there are definitely a lot more enemy types here. They seem to be a bit more dangerous. So I gotta be on the lookout, especially with some of the more dangerous enemy types. I mean, they leave a lot more deadly projectiles around. I don't remember floor 2 being this difficult in the base game. I don't remember any Rocketeer enemies, so that's definitely a new enemy type I should be worried about. Well, this room alone demonstrated 5 new enemy types, and all of them seem pretty scary. So I really should be on my guard. And I think I'm kinda dreading my decision to play as the Warhog here. Having a mech with at least one shield would be a bit better. I mean, look at this. One of the projectiles is following me around a lot further than what you'd usually see in a normal game. Enabling the DLC upgrades or expansion really has increased the difficulty of this game, at least from what I've seen so far. In any of my other runs, floor 2 wouldn't be this challenging. So, from my cursory glances, I strongly suggest not enabling this DLC until you complete the base game a few times, to get your feet wet. And even then, play with a mech with a longer range so you can actually get used to the enemy bullet patterns. I still gotta get used to those homing projectiles. Should I fight it? Let's go for it. Oh, 4 shield wall, we have a lot of shield enemies, and it's golden. Well, you know what to do, just guide them in circles, and eventually one of them will fall. After all, their rears are the weak points. I wish I had a piercing weapon though. Oh, bombs are randomly spawning in as well. Missiles. If I had the regular missile launcher, it would be a lot harder, but because I had so many missiles, I just one-shot them. Should I go for this? I'll go for that seems better. Well, that boss fight would have been a lot more difficult, as I just said there, if I didn't have the Mega Missile Launcher. Really would like more robotics, but we'll have to wait until we get a keycard somewhere. Oh boy, what is this room? I see. Whenever the floor is red, I'll take damage, so I need to run across the room when the floor isn't red. At least that's what I think, because red usually means danger. And they deactivate once I complete the room, so I guess they're damaging when they're red. It's a very clear visual distinction. That looks scary. Thankfully I have a lot of burst damage so I can just run in and out. Hit and run tactics after all. The new musical tracks are really snazzy too, so that's a plus. I get the feeling another enemy is actually firing all those guided lasers or something. And we have those enemy types too. Oh, the Rift Blues were launching all those missile shots, or all those sprinklers, as I call them. Also, I should remember to stop picking up all those missile upgrades, or missile pickups. In a normal run, I'd be grabbing as many missile pickups as possible, but here, where I want to get more health shards, I have to refrain from doing it. It goes against my better judgment throughout this LP. Well, at least that makes this mech type more unique, I guess. Oh goody, we have this new obstacle type, the flamethrower turret. Oh, unfortunately you get destroyed. Shame, you were so useful there. I'm really scared of this room type. Because it's really difficult to dodge everything and you take a lot of damage if you're not careful. As you saw over there. Especially if you don't have the ability to blow up these blocks. Seriously, how would you get through this room if you didn't have the ability to blow up these blocks? Well, you could potentially teleport back and forth, but that's still rather slow. And because I don't want to take any risks here, I'm going to be picking up some extra health. Geez, the gold rooms are definitely upping the ante. More so for the turrets that are firing at me. Those are the more dangerous points because I can't destroy them. And if I'm caught out of the open without any missiles, I'm in deep trouble. That was a close one. Okay then, apparently I can disable that now. So what do we get? Nah, I need more health, so I won't take any of this. What's this? Well, I get a free health shard, so I guess it was worth it. The question is, will I be able to survive long enough? That looks rather scary. Okay, these are called eyelets. Really durable types of enemies. Well, that name is rather appropriate. I gotta keep an eye on those really big metallic blue enemies. They seem quite frightening to fight. Oh, and of course those enemy types can actually just fly over everything. I want to save it for the robotic shop so I won't unlock those new doors. What's left? Okay, that one. That should be it. I see where the final boss encounter is, and I do have one key as well. And because I have nowhere else to go, it's time to pay a visit to the robotics shop. After all, having a robotic companion, especially one that can block projectiles, will probably be super useful throughout this run, especially the one with a lot of projectiles everywhere. Stinkbot, Interceptor. Oh, these two are new. This is an old one, but the Interceptor droid is really useful. I don't know what the Stinkbot does, but being able to fire elemental energy at enemies is going to be really useful. Thanks for the extra credits. I don't know why there are extra credits in the middle of a shop. Seems a little bit strange why the shopkeeper wouldn't just decide to pick them up themselves. But before I fight the boss, I'm going to be picking up all these missiles in case I need them. Who knows, they may be useful for during the boss encounter. I'd rather have them than not have them. Well, I've explored this floor enough, so let's finish this. I just wish there was a teleporter closer by. Okay, Meridian, that's a new one. But it's listed as a gold boss, so I gotta be really careful. Okay, Interceptor Droid is definitely doing his job because it's actually deflecting stuff. Oh, guided missiles. Well, that golden boss seemed really easier than I expected, but that was thanks to the Interceptor Droid and by really high base damage. This is a bit too slow, so I'll just rely on the FTL module. This may be useful when counteracting stuff like the Red Crimson's inherent energy drain though. I would love to have this, but I don't have a shield, so I don't know why I get this perk. Maybe for the future? This is gonna be useful though. Well, I guess that's that. Time to finish this floor. This definitely worked better than the previous floor, but the main thing I've learned from floor 2, aka the first gold floor I've encountered, gold floors are definitely harder than their traditional counterparts. You saw with the more difficult enemy configurations as well as bosses. We'll have to see how the future gold floors get more difficult or not. Plus, I'm wondering if the expansion altered any other details with the traditional floors. Alright, let's continue on by going upwards. Sure, let's fight a mini-boss now, and oh, of course, this Toxic Reaper. This is gonna be a little bit easier because, well, you see how much damage I'm dealing here. And, well, for every shotgun blast to the Toxic Reaper's face, it dies really fast. What happened there? I heard some roaring. It kind of got stuck against that turret, so I guess I can use the turrets to manipulate the enemies. Who knows? I'll keep the battle sentries for that reason alone, and also because they act like a nice flunky. But what I would love to have right now is an actual shield, at least one. That'll be super useful as we get to the tougher floors, where damage scales upwards. And of course, shields scale better as more and more damage gets accrued. In fact, shields are even more important in Misery mode, where you have really low health and enemy damage is buffed as well. I hate this room type. Oh, I'm almost dead too. And I'm dead because random projectiles. Thanks, game. It was going well enough, but then I took a lot of damage because Aegis. The problem with Aegis is because of the shield and the fact I have a short range and have to wait for it to open a shield and I'm in a tight quarter, well, there's nowhere else to run. Also, the other problem, I don't have a shield, so I repeatedly kept taking damage, and I died. I thought I was going well, especially with Interceptor Droid, but then that room configuration came. That's what I was saying in the previous parts of how your fortunes can turn pretty fast. Although in this run, my fortunes weren't that good in the first place. Okay, from what I played in this mech in this run, honestly, maybe due to my lack of experience, I don't think the base health value is good enough. Where is the base mech there? It should have the same amount of health as the white gloss or white glass, aka have at least 12 max health, because even though it takes one less damage from every single source, because of its increased size as well as lower speed, that doesn't really make up for it. So at least 2 or 5 max health on normal mode, and on hard mode decrease it to about 8 or 10, and misery, whatever it is. I do like the Warhog shotgun, sure, but with the Warhog itself, there is a problem because it's a bit too slow. For other mechs it wasn't really much of a problem because they were a lot faster, as you could dash in and dash out a lot more easily. Plus, the other issue is the fact that this mech is missing a shield. For a Warhog, I would expect the armor-plated war machine to have a shield, especially with 10 base health, because with 10 base health I would usually think, one extra shield, one max shield would be nice, but no shields at all. At least that's what I think to make the mech more balanced, because without it, like I said, I would prefer 12 or 15 max health at base, at least on normal mode. The battle sentries are also a pretty nice upgrade because I think they scale pretty well, and not only do they protect or projectile shots, you can spawn a lot of them at once and they deal a notable amount of damage. In fact, their base damage scales as you buff up your own damage, globally of course. So they will stack well with global damage perks as well as robotics consumable upgrades or secondary upgrades, as well, especially with mechs that have a lot of energy capacity. Think of the mechs that have an energy capacity of 500 or 1000. You could potentially spawn in 10 or 20 of these little things, and it can cause chaos to enemies, especially bosses. You saw how it kind of messed with the movement pattern of the Toxic Reaper there, causing it to get stuck. Also, the Cataclysm Cannon or Cataclysm Missile Launcher was pretty fun to use as well. Being able to fire all missiles at once to increase the blast damage and radius is a pretty neat idea, but this causes problems when I want to pick up those health shard upgrades. Perhaps there's an upgrade or perk you get when you level up the Warhog enough, but I never was able to get to that point, unfortunately. So maybe that fixes the issue, but I would like a toggle between switching between firing one missile at a time or all missiles at once, or something along those lines. Then again, if the aforementioned perk exists, then you can drop this complaint of mine. But as I said, this is based off of my first run of the Warhog, and how it doesn't really feel up to my expectations of the Warhog. I had high hopes about the Warhog, but unfortunately it doesn't feel, when it says armor-plated, it doesn't feel armor-plated enough, with the trade-off of it having lower speed and reduced damage. It just doesn't fulfill its description, basically. And I feel there are other mech types that better fulfill my playstyle of sorts. The second thing I've noticed throughout this run, as I've noticed, the gold floors seem to be more difficult than the traditional floors. The gold floor version of floor 2 was significantly more challenging than the normal version of floor 2, at least from my comparison in the past 10 or so or more runs using the previous mechs and what I can recall. Not only are the ships have more tricky movement patterns, their projectile patterns and bullet patterns are a lot more dangerous as well. Not to mention they're a lot more dangerous terrain, as well as the more difficult turrets, as you saw with the machine gun turrets and the flame turrets, or flamethrower turrets. Not to mention some of the room structures are a lot more sadistic. Though I'll have to see in the future if the gold floor spawning is a bit different. I'm frightened if, for example, floor 6 or 7, or maybe even 8 if it exists, is a gold floor. I'm not sure if I'll be able to survive that. But we'll have to see. Well then, in the next part, I'll either try out the Zephyr, or probably Zephyr, or the Paladin. But so far, I think I'm liking the new Augmented upgrade, or Augmented expansion pack, although I'll have to play through it more before I can provide a solid idea of what it is, and perhaps do a complete run using it. Well then, thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Doodles!